Hi guys, my name is Marcel and you did click this video because you're a traditional artist and you're struggling. You tried every trick under the sun. And did it work? No. And did it work? No. But then you realized we are not cavemen. We have technology. That's right, in today's video I'll show you how to get into digital art if you've never touched a tablet before. And it's my goal that after watching this video you will get an artwork on screen that looks like this. And before you mention it, I know that there are many different styles of digital art. I also like to paint portraits and landscapes or concept art on my tablet. But I think starting with something simpler just to get your feet wet and learn all of these basic tools first would be a bit easier for starters. That's always how you learn a new medium. You try to start out by making something simple without any fancy effects in order to understand how all of these tools work and how to use them. And then you can try getting a bit more advanced. Okay, this is how we're doing it. First, I'll be giving you a quick overview on your art supplies, i.e. tablet and drawing app. And after that, I will show you the basics, how I'm approaching digital art from the very beginning and how you could draw your first digital art piece. Then there will be a quick guide to shortcuts, and at the end, there will be a draw along part where you and I will be making this artwork together. I've never made a tutorial purely on digital art before on this channel, so if you guys support this one enough, then I'll be sure to make more content like this in the future. Sounds good? Then let's switch over to digital art. Like a sir. Now, there are mainly three kinds of tablets people like to use. There's mobile tablets, like the iPad obviously, then there are pen display monitors, and last but not least, there are tablets without a screen at all. For this tutorial, it really doesn't matter which one you have, by the way. I personally prefer display monitor tablets because I like to work on my PC and I prefer working with multiple screens at once. But a lot of beginners especially also tend to use mobile tablets like an iPad because you don't require a computer to use it. And also working with gestures is a very simple way to get into digital art. If you want to have some recommendations of what tablets exactly I personally use, I did list them all on my supply list on my website, in case you're still unsure about which one to get. So it doesn't really matter which kind of tablet you have, and same goes for your app, by the way. It doesn't make much of a difference which exact app you're using for starters, just as long as your drawing app supports creating multiple layers. I've actually made a video a long time ago where I compared different drawing apps, and in this video I already told you that Clip Studio Paint is my absolute favorite drawing app to work with, and that's why Clip Studio's actually partnered up with me to sponsor today's video. Clip Studio is an app that I'm using for years now, and I'm using it not only for artworks, but I'm also using it for animation. I've literally animated a whole commercial using this very software. There's a budget version in case you don't want to spend a lot of money, at least on PC. It's a one-time purchase, so you don't have to have a subscription. There's a free store integrated with a lot of free stuff, like brushes, effects, and even 3D models that can help you out with perspective, and well, I could sit here all day listing off the reasons why you should give this app a try. If you want to try out Clip Studio, there's a 3-month trial version which has all of the features that Clip Studio usually has. So why not give it a shot? It's an honest recommendation from me, and a link to the software is obviously down in the info box. Okay then, if you're ready, I'm going to now show you the basics and how I'm approaching some very simple digital art. Alright, I'll give you an overview of all the basic tools and functions and explain to you how I'm using them. Don't worry if you're not using Clip Studio, these tools are almost all very similar looking in most drawing apps and softwares. For starters, let's create a new project. You can do that over here. Clip Studio's overview is incredibly simple, so everything you'll have to enter here is how wide and how long your artwork will be and what resolution you'd want. I personally would not use anything below 2000 x 2000 pixels, and the resolution should be in the 3 digits. I like to enter 300 here. Because your resolution, or dots per inch, determine how pixelated your artwork is going to be later on. So yeah, with 300 you should be completely fine, so let's confirm and create our canvas. Okay, before we'll start, let's have a quick check on your workspace. In case you're missing something, you can always get the exact same workspace that I have by selecting Windows, Workspace, and then reset it that way. And now your app should look exactly the way mine does. Now you'll obviously need your tools, you have your toolbar for that. There are also some properties for your tools, in case you want to change the size or the shape of your brush, but this could look slightly different depending on the app or workspace you're using. Then you'll need a way to pick your color. This can be a color wheel, a color pool, etc. And last but not least, obviously your layers. You won't need any more than that for starters. Now, in case you've never drawn digital art before, an artwork is basically always drawn on several layers. Just try imagining them like transparent slides that lie on top of each other. You usually have one layer for every step. So you have your sketch layer, then you have your coloration layer, your line art layer, and so on and so forth. The big advantage here is that if you want to change something about your line art, for example, you could easily toggle off all the other layers and then change whatever you dislike about your art. Alright then, let's give it a go. In case you are getting this icon, you need to create a new layer, by the way. There are several types of layers, but let's just stick to the regular all raster layer here. I would recommend always naming or color coding your layers because there will be a lot of them, so this can get quite messy. I personally, for example, always like to color code my sketch layers blue. And now that we have our sketch layer, let's sketch on it. You can take whatever kind of pen your app or software has. Clip Studio has pencils, traditional brushes, and liners when it comes to drawing. There are a lot of things to choose from. It's pretty fun to try out all the different pens at your disposal. Also, when you're picking a pen that you like, you can customize it too, like changing the size of the brush, etc. There are a lot of properties to these, but I guess the only one that matters for now is obviously the size. And now I would like to encourage you to just try it out and draw a bit. And also, in case you want to erase something, the eraser works the very same way as well. Oh, and the color wheel I think is kind of self-explanatory. Doesn't matter if you prefer a wheel or a pool or whatever, what's important is that you have a place to pick your colors from. Okay, these were like the absolute bare basics you need in order to draw. Like I said, I would suggest you just draw a bit to get the hang out of it and try some brushes that you think look cool. If you want to rotate or zoom into your canvas, there's a whole menu for that on the top right corner. There's a quicker way of doing that, but I'll talk about shortcuts later. If you have a tablet that supports touch, you could just use your fingers for that. That's also pretty cool, but that doesn't work on every tablet. Besides these, there are also some other tools that make your life a bit less of a living hell, like the Liquify tool, which lets you transform your artwork in case you messed up some proportions, or obviously the Select tool, which you could use to move or transform parts of your art. But when sketching, I really only like to use the bare basics myself, because it really just shows that I'm a traditional artist through and through. But I would suggest you practice handling these very basic tools at first. Try drawing on your tablet without any fancy effects at first in order to get some muscle memory. It's a weird feeling trying to draw digitally for the first time, especially drawing on a tablet without a screen is pretty difficult for starters. So this might actually take a couple of hours to get used to. For practicing, I would recommend drawing the usual basic shapes, just so that later on your lines don't look like you're intoxicated while holding your tablet. Like I said, depending on how quick of a learner you are, this could take hours, but if you still struggle here, I would not recommend attempting your magnum opus while you still need to get a grasp of the basics. So try having fun with it, try some brushes you like, use the eraser a couple of times, zoom in, zoom out, rotate your canvas, get married, have kids, go on a holiday, like this video, subscribe to my channel. No, for real now, why didn't you like this video yet? Also, you should definitely save your artworks from time to time, you can do so right here. Now at this point I should enlighten you about Ctrl-Z. You might already know about Ctrl-Z, but with this feature you can basically rewind every action that you've made. You accidentally erased something? Ctrl-Z. You misclicked and now your whole canvas is green? Ctrl-Z. As always, there's also an undo button for that in case you hate using keyboards. And also with most touch tablets, this should be a simple double tap. Honestly, I don't really rewind anything while sketching because that way I keep all of my drawings, even the failed ones. I think that's an absolute waste to just undo everything out of existence. So you don't really need that feature when it comes to sketching, but you might need it in this next step. Okay then, enough about sketching, I'll show you how to proceed when I'm finishing my artwork. Next up, right after finishing the sketching layer, comes the line art layer. You know, basically the layer where our sketch gets an actual outline. But before we do that, we need to reduce the opacity of our sketch so we don't get confused later on. Reducing the opacity is pretty easy. Basically every software has a toggle right over here where you can just reduce the opacity of your layer. And now as for the line art, we now need a separate layer. For simplicity's sake, adding a regular layer does the trick, but for line arts, I usually always like to use vector layers. That's because with vector layers, you're actually able to edit these line arts after the fact. But not every app has vector layers, so let's stick to a regular raster layer for now. Now, I would recommend using a proper pen for line art. Personally, I prefer the G pen because it reacts to pen pressure. And now everything that you would need to do is to trace your sketch. And pro tip, if your line art is too wobbly, you can always increase the stabilization of your pen in the property menu. This works like a charm, but it also makes your pen lag behind a bit, so don't increase it all too much. Now you might be able to tell already, but the undo feature really comes in handy here. Because yeah, line art can be kind of tricky. Usually you always need a couple of attempts to get it to look as clean as you want it to. And that's okay, that's what Ctrl Z is there for after all. Alright then, and once we're finished, we don't need our sketch layer anymore, so let's hide it. Pretty much any drawing app has an eyeball right besides the layer where you can just hide the layer with. And now just look at that, halfway done already. Now next up would be the coloring part. As you can see, you usually start out by just painting the flat colors first without any shadows or highlights. Just the base is all. Okay then, same procedure, adding a new layer and just name it color. Or color, in case you're annoying. The most important part is to have this layer be underneath your line art layer. Kinda makes sense, you don't want your line art to be covered by color. Looks like you're drawing flat out melted. So yeah, this layer obviously goes underneath. And now there are several ways that you could color digitally. When painting portraits or landscapes, I just like to literally paint them. Because for these kind of styles, this absolutely makes sense. But for simpler motifs like these, we tackle this with the filling tool. Pretty sure you know what this does, but the bucket fill in Clip Studio is a whole nother breed with all of its features. I'll just show you. Now if you're picking a color and you're using the bucket tool to fill in this new color layer, the color you choose will just completely fill out the layer. Yeah, probably not what you've had in mind. So instead you could make the filling tool recognize all layers. So now your filling tool considers everything else, like your line art for example. Okay, that's pretty cool, but what if you're filling out an area and it still just spills in a place you don't want to? Again, there's an option for that. Just increase the tolerance to gaps right here in the properties and voila, it works like a charm.
You mean like a sir?
Just shut the fuck. If you're missing any of these options though, you can get a whole overview of all of these different options with this little icon right here. As you can see, we didn't even scratch the surface here. These tools do have some serious potential. And now I'm using this tool to fill out the rest. No new surprises here. Okay then, like I said before, the shadowy parts are getting their own layer. So again, make a new layer, make sure it's above your color, and also you could again name and color code it. Now here's the trick to make your shadow look like actual shadow, and it's by using the blending mode of your layer. Basically every artist out there changes the blending mode of their shading layer to multiply. Now everything that you're painting on this layer looks like actual shadow. But now, unlike the flat coloration from before, shading completely depends on your preference. You can choose if you prefer A, just drawing in shadows, similar to line art, and just filling in the gaps with the filling tool, or B, picking a nice looking brush, like a watercolor brush for example, and then just paint the shadows that way. Before you're doing anything here though, I recommend you're using a clipping mask. Because shadow doesn't really make sense if you're painting out of the subject. And now that's precisely what a clipping mask is for. Basically every app has this option. But wait, I hear you say, what if I'm painting on a layer, but I fail to realize that I was painting on the wrong layer all along, so now all the colors are baked into the wrong layer and I need to start the whole process all over again, and there's no way I can do all of this because all of my hard work
First time.
is gone. Yeah, sorry, but this basically happens to everyone sooner or later. If you have been naming and color coding your layers, you should be relatively good, but this does happen from time to time. So anyway, after all of the shading process, I'm like 99% done with this artwork, but there's a little finishing touch I always like to apply. Because I will now add one final layer, and then I'll drag it all the way to the top. And yes, surprisingly enough, this is where the highlights go. Shocking, I know. But yeah, that's my complete workflow. These are the tools and methods that I'm using to draw and paint some very rudimentary digital art. Just go ahead and try it out for yourself, or just draw together with me. Like I promised, there's gonna be a draw along session at the end of the video. But before we get to that, I need to mention a couple of things about shortcuts. Maybe while watching me draw earlier, you saw me rotate things or undo things and you were like, isn't there an easier way to do that? And there is, and that's via hotkeys. For example, I did set up my stylus so that every time I'm using this button right here, I'm automatically undoing things in my drawing. It's a small thing, but this actually saves me a lot of time and it's way more convenient. And the other button on my stylus is used for the pen size, so that I can change the size of my pen while drawing. But there are even more buttons, 6 to be exact. I mapped shortcuts to all of these so that I can zoom in or out or transform drawings completely without using my keyboard all of the time. And yeah, not every tablet has buttons like these, but if you do, you should totally map some shortcuts to them via your tablet software or driver. But like I said, if you absolutely want to have the very same tablets that I'm using, they are all linked on my website in my art supply list. Okay then, let's end this video with a quick draw along, just like I did in my watercolor video. And if you guys have any problems here, just write a comment. I have an awesome community, so if you're a nakama of my channel, feel free to help some beginners in the comments if you see some people having trouble. Okay, for this draw or paint along, I'll be finishing up this artwork right here. It's a drawing of Arizona, one of my main characters from my manga series. And if you want to join me on this, you can just download the template I've made for this. Just a simple right click and save as. But as always, this download doesn't come for free. As an exchange, I would like you to comment which software you are using when drawing digitally. Alright then, if you left your comment, go ahead and download the finished line art. I left a link down in the info box. I've made it a simple PNG that you can just save via a right click and you should be able to open it with basically every drawing app. So then, let's go. I'm starting just like I did before by creating a new layer for my colors and filling out the flat colors without the shadows. Now, especially with things like hair, there could always be a spot where you just need to color manually as well. I'm not being incredibly thorough with it, but it's always good to at least take a closer look and see if there are any spots left unfilled. I'm also adding a flame pattern to Arizona's shirt by just painting it in. I do things like these without outlines sometimes, that way it just looks a lot more like it's actually printed on the shirt. And if you want to get a bit more creative with it, you can just add any kind of pattern to this shirt that you would like to add. And just like before, I'm also adding a new shadow layer and set its mode to multiply. I'm using an orange color to shade here just so the shadow fits into the warmer color scheme of this artwork. Also, for simplicity's sake, I'll just draw some harsh 2D cel shading style shadows, since it's an anime style artwork after all. And again, watch out for little spots where the filling tool isn't able to fill out everything. Now last but not least, we'll add a highlight layer on top of it all. On this highlight layer, I'm adding a couple of little spots on the hair as well as the eyes and maybe even the nose. And that's pretty much it. Now that was a very simple artwork, but this is a beginner video after all. There are so many different drawing and painting styles and techniques, from portraits all the way to landscape. So if you want to have more videos about digital art, please support this video as well as my channel. I'm pretty sure you know how to do that by now. Now, if you want to draw some more cool stuff on your tablet, why not check out my other videos? I do have a couple of step-by-step videos about drawing faces, animals, and anything else you could think of. I would be honored if you check them out. A big thank you for Clip Studio for sponsoring this video, and thank you so much for watching. My name is Marcel, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Goodbye.